We know that there are all kinds of people that listen to our podcast each week, and there's some that they would say that their marriages are going great. There's some that probably, well, we know because they reach out to us and tell us of just some major issues and crises in their marriage. But I know that there's also just a lot of people out there that would just say, we're just stuck. We're just stuck and not really going anywhere. So that's going to be our topic for today, so stay tuned. Hey, I'm Rusty.
And I'm Heather.
And we're the Bryants, and this is the Redeemed Marriage Podcast.
We are here to encourage healthy marriages, strengthen wounded marriages, and begin the process of restoration to broken marriages.
We aren't licensed counselors, but we are a redeemed couple that loves the Lord and wants to help you journey through this messy, challenging, and fun part of life called marriage. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on a new episode of the Redeemed Marriage Podcast. This is Rusty and Heather Bryant, and we're glad to be back with you today. So we did the little intro just a second ago.
Yeah, I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah, well, I don't really know if crises is a word. I was thinking to myself that, multiple crises would maybe be crises.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hey, I'm far
I'm just
removed.
a librarian.
I'm far from removed from school, and I don't really care, to be honest.
I could Google it while you're talking.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I really don't care.
You used it.
Somebody might tell us. I'm sure people love to tell you when you're wrong,
That's
right?
Crises.
Crises. All right. Well, we're not going to really talk about that today. So today we've got a really good topic that it's funny. So I was helping to lead worship this morning, and a great sermon. And I shouldn't say have to, but when you're leading worship, you sit through all of the services. Mm-hmm. I'm just kidding. I know that's a word. Services. It just sounded weird. So we sit through all the services, and so the first one, I'm sitting back in the green room just kind of listening and kind of not listening, and some people talking and stuff. But then, you hear enough to go, I didn't pay attention to this part when we come back out. So anyway, we're sitting there in the second service, and I mean, you probably saw, I know you were taking notes, but you probably saw me. I kept grabbing my phone. I just kept taking notes and stuff. And this was, we had a long list of topics that we were kind of ready to get rolling with because we started a new small group last week. Mm-hmm. They actually gave us a list of topics, and we have a ton of them. Mm-hmm. We made a long list of them, but this just kind of hit today, and I don't know, it just felt like it was good and right to talk about it. So, to
borrow Jason's words, it just hit different.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Just hit different. So we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
So I started thinking today just about all the different people and marriages, and where they are, the people that listen to us, that contact us, and it's so great. We've been having a lot of interaction with people through social media, especially in the last week. Just lots of people that chime in and love the encouragement and people thanking us and stuff. But we also, it's so great when you get those comments that it's husbands and wives that are kind of commenting back and forth through our social media, and you can tell like they're in a good place. They're echoing the stuff that we're putting on social media, and it's like, that is so great, because we know, there's a lot of couples out there that are like, man, marriage is awesome, and we are enjoying the stage of life that we're in, whatever. But then, my goodness, we get so many emails and instant messages of people just, can you pray for me, pray for my spouse, and the enemy is like going crazy with marriages. And so you've got these two extremes, and honestly, I don't know where the majority of marriages fall. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know which end of the spectrum they fall on, or if they just land somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And, it kind of reminds me of like when when Jesus said, to not be a lukewarm Christian, to not be a lukewarm believer. And I sort of feel like if we just somehow did some sort of a poll, I think most people would just say they're just lukewarm. Like they're just stuck. And they're somewhere between the two extremes that I said. They're not happy. They're not really enjoying marriage, but they're also not like, I got to get out of this thing like right now because my spouse has done A, B, C, or D or whatever. Or maybe they have and they're just like, who cares? And so I just think that there's so many marriages that are just stuck and they don't really know
what to do,
where to go. I wish there was a way, but the thing is, people aren't honest about their marriages. They just don't, and nobody wants to go out. Again, we have a reason for why we share our podcast or why we share our message with people and our story. Most people are not going to be like us. They're not going to jump on 2 microphones and tell the whole world, what's going on in their marriage. So I don't know. I just, I wish we knew.
Well, and along those same lines, people aren't in the same season all the time.
Sure.
Like you have times where your marriage may be like really, really good and we're crushing it. And then there's other times where you do feel stuck and you do feel like, is this going anywhere? And like I've heard said that in your relationship with the Lord, I've heard the argument. You're either moving towards him or you're moving away from him. I don't know that that's true. I think that you could kind of be indifferent in that kind of in between. And I feel that same way about marriage. Like you're either actively making your marriage better or you're making it worse, or the lack of attention is making it worse. But then I think that you can be just in a place too where you're just kind of stuck.
Yeah, almost like you just become. We've said this before, but one of the topics that somebody gave us was, how do you keep from just being roommates?
Yeah, and just kind of indifferent.
Yeah,
on things.
And I just think that there's so many marriages that they're just stuck. That's just where they are, and sometimes I wonder if they really even care to get out of it, which we can talk about that in a little bit. But raising the question of, we don't know where marriages are. I've started thinking, when you talk to somebody, just a friend, or I go to lunch. Guys don't do real good opening up, but I go to lunch with guys, throughout the week, just friends, and we'll just, hey, you want to go grab lunch or whatever. And, most of the conversation is you're talking about sports or you're talking about things going on with your kids and stuff. But most of the time, a question will come up and even if it's somebody you hadn't talked to in a while and you're just texting them, you're like, how's your family? That's the question. Is how's your family? I don't know that anybody goes, how's your marriage? And I kind of want to start doing that. I want.
Now nobody's going to want to go to lunch with
no. Well, our friends probably don't even listen to this. But I really, I started thinking about that this morning. I was like, I really want to start saying, hey, how's your marriage? And I'm not so sure. I almost think that people would be honest.
I do too.
I think it really
would catch them completely by surprise, but then it would be like, huh?
Yeah, because I really think that there would be some of them that they would start to say, oh yeah, things are good, and then they're like, no, you know what, man, I'm really struggling with this, and I may just make that part of my life now.
And then you can report back.
Yeah, I'll tell everybody on the air.
Weekly updates.
But I do think that people they don't like to share what's going on in their marriage, but I really think that deep down they want to. They want somebody to be able to connect with and to say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And so, and we know that because people reach out to us all the time and say, this is what's happening. But I just think it's a good opportunity for us to really start. Let's give people a checkup. Let's just say, where are you? And so here's the thing: is I was thinking about, I'm just going to say the average listener. Let's just say the average listener. You're listening to this, and you would say, things aren't great, but things aren't awful. We're just kind of stuck. We're just stuck in the middle. And here's what I would say. If you feel that way, I would guess, and you can chime in here, Heather. I would say that your spouse feels the same way. Do you think that's right?
Yeah. I think you're right there, boss.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I do. I do agree with that statement. I doubt that there's many out there that are like, we're just crushing it. And then the other spouse is like, "Meh, meh, meh.
Yeah.
I don't love this."
And again, we know that can be a case by case and a marriage by marriage basis. And we have shared our story of where, I was completely caught off guard by what was going on. But at the same time, now looking back, you go, yeah.
Sure.
I was blinded by a lot of stuff, but I don't know that that's normal.
Yeah.
I really,
well, and I was hiding things. Whereas, I think you prefaced it by saying there are extremes. And I think we were one of those extreme cases, but I think that the average person, they're
not trying to hide anything.
No.
So because they're not hiding anything, they're not trying to make their spouse think that everything is okay.
Right.
They're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And they could be doing things like I was doing, but it's not so much of I'm going to try to make you think everything's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, where we're getting at, we have no idea what people are going through unless they tell us. And so, but we do know that there's just tons of people out there that are like, man, we're just in a rut. So, so what I want us to do for the next few minutes is just kind of talk through, well, what do you do? What do you do when you're just in a rut and you want to move forward and you want to improve things? And I would say that the first thing, the sermon this morning was about the pool of Bethesda and the man that had been sick. I mean, couldn't move for 38 years.
I don't know why I missed that was 38 years until he said it this morning, but I was like, that's a long time.
Yeah, and he would sit there waiting for the angel to come and stir up the waters.
Right.
And, they didn't know when that would happen. The first one that could get in there was healed.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't move. So he waited. He was waiting around hoping somebody would help him into the pool or whatever.
And who's going to help him? Because everybody around there's sick.
That's right.
And they're trying to get in. They're not going to go, oh, hey, buddy, it's your turn.
But I love when, and we're not going to get into the deep theological discussion of why Jesus did this, but Jesus came to him, and the question he asked was, do you want to be well? And I say that that's the first question that you need to ask yourself. If you're in a marriage that's stuck, or that needs healing, the first question would be, do you really want to get better? Like, do you want it to be better? And the reason why I think that's so important to ask is because I think there's people out there, they're just fine. They're just fine with the way it is. And not only that, I think there's some people that they're comfortable where they are. They don't want to do anything that's going to rock the boat.
Right.
And part of it even is, hey, look, we're together. We're going to stay together. But if we really want to make our marriage good, we have to work a little bit.
Really work hard.
I mean, and like people are just like, we're good. I'm good. I don't want to work on that.
Yep.
And
do you think when you think about people who might say that, do you think both spouses are like that?
Man.
The majority? Or do you think there's one saying, I just think about, I think about the guy, first of all, that you're talking about at the pool. Like, you think he almost wants to say, well, yeah, I mean, I've been laying here 38 years. Of course I want to get better. Do you think that there's people who think, well, yeah, I want this to be better? But then when you think about really doing the work, maybe it's like, I'm good. you know?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I think that there's some cases where both the husband and the wife are just like, we're fine.
Yeah.
And we don't want to put in the work that's going to make this marriage better. And at the same time, I think there may even be a little bit, sometimes there's like, well, what if we do put in the work, but things really don't even get any better? Like,
Right.
what if we fail?
Right.
And
Yeah,
there's probably some fear of that.
Yeah.
But I think you're right that sometimes there's one spouse that's like, man, we know this. Like,
Yeah.
I want to put in the work, and then the other one's like, yeah, I'm good.
Right.
And so, all
And
right.
don't fall into all women want it to be better and men don't care, because that's not true either.
Oh, for sure. I think that's that. I think where you run into that situation more than not, though, is that the husband doesn't. The husbands, the males, do not talk as much, so they don't express
Right.
how they really
Well, and they
feel.
can't even put that into words,
Right.
because they're not used to that.
So here we go. If you're in this situation and you're like, how do we get out of it? Well, we're leading right into it, because I think that the first step there is that you're admitting that you're stuck, and you basically have to come to the decision and say, I want to get out. We want to get out of this stuckness.
You're just making up all kind
making
of
up
words today.
words. But we want to, yes, I want to get out of this stuckness. And here, so let's just, we said some people don't want to put in the work. Some people may be scared of failing if they do put in the work. But I just want to say, we are in a place in our marriage, and again, we've worked really, really hard because of a crisis. But even once that, the crisis is gone, but it never really completely, we've been affected by it in such a way that it's always a part of our life.
Sure.
But it is past. We're on the other side.
Right.
But we still work really hard at our marriage. And I would say that every ounce of effort that we've put into it to get to where we are today is 100% worth it.
Absolutely.
Like because the joy that we have in being a happily married couple far outweighs any of the, I'm scared this is not going to work out, or, I don't want to work so hard. Like, throw that away. If you're out there thinking that, throw it away, because we can tell you that if you get to a point where you are truly happy, the joy that comes from being in a healthy marriage, there's nothing like it.
Right. And you're willing to keep working because you don't want to go back.
Yeah, and you see, how fun it is,
Right.
and how much
Right.
joy
Yeah.
that you can have. So, so I would say that if you're in this situation, you admit that. Like, say, we are in a place that's stuck, and I want to do my part, and I want us to, work together. And so then what do you do?
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, well, what if?
Now what?
Yeah, like,
Well,
what
you
if
got to tell your spouse.
Yep.
You said
What's that look like?
Saying, hey, I've been thinking about our marriage and I want to make it better. And you have to have a conversation.
I love that, because we haven't talked about this at all, but I'm just telling both spouses out there, do not go to your spouse and say the words, I'm not happy. Like, that's not how we're starting this conversation.
That's crushing.
It's crushing, and it's like, me.
Yeah. Well, yes, definitely. It's me, but it's also crushing because you're saying to your spouse, you're responsible for my happiness.
Yes.
And
you're not making me happy.
Right. And they're not. There is not a spouse out there that is responsible for your happiness. Period.
So I'm going to rewind us to pre-affair, and, before your confession to me. I can remember times throughout those first 15 years of marriage, and it was probably only 2 or 3, but I can remember the words like you were saying them yesterday when you said to me, I'm just not happy. And like it's like that still hurts today. And even if I was 100%, even if I was the reason why you thought you were unhappy, like, that doesn't help anything.
Right.
And, for me, I'm like, it is, like you said, it is crushing, and it's just me, 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 me.
Right. The focus is on you and what you need and what you want and
Yeah.
desire.
So you were going with how you approach that.
Now you done messed me up. You got me out of my flow.
Go. How would you approach your spouse to say that? You were on it. I just was like, yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I think you go and say, I want us to have a great marriage, and I want to be able to put in the work and make that happen. And I just want to talk to you about what we can do to make what we can do, or even what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't never, ever, ever you, but what I can do or what we can do to put into place to make things better for both of us. And I can't imagine a spouse saying, no, thank you.
Nah. Yeah, because especially if you approach it even with, hey, look, I'm committed to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am with you, thick and thin.
And even saying, I love you.
Yep.
And
how
many ever years ago when I said I do again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in that commitment, I want to make it even better.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that is the step to take is.
I think it's the hardest one too.
Well, sure, because then, yeah, you have to admit it. You got to admit it to yourself, and then you're not admitting to your spouse. You're just approaching your spouse to say, come on, let's do this together. And what is my role in making this marriage better for you? And if you approach it that way, how is your spouse? I don't think your spouse is going to come up with a list of 10 things for you to do better and then not expect to do anything themselves, especially if you're just having a real, open, honest conversation that's not, look, I'm not happy because you're not doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
But it's just, man, I see the marriages out there that are thriving and are, doing so good, and that's what I want for us.
And I'm willing to put in the work and do whatever is needed to make that happen.
Yep. And when we're 80 years old, I want to hold your hand walking down the street together.
Right.
That's the goal. So, so then what? What do you do from there?
You're so mean. You didn't even give a heads up that you were going to ask me this question. Well, you hope that, were we assuming that your spouse is saying,
yeah,
we're on board, let's do it. Okay. Well, then you have to come up with areas. Sorry, my headphones you still haven't bought me. My old ones are going out. I think that it's very important that you come up with some things that you can do as a couple to strengthen your relationship in your marriage. Sorry, I'm really distracted by this.
Your headphones?
I cannot hear you. Okay.
I'll just talk louder.
Okay. Great. Turn your volume down, folks.
No, it's okay. Yeah. So, sort of some action plans.
Right.
Or, even if it's not some, specific action plans, but maybe you just have that first thing is, hey, let's just go out on a date. We haven't been out in forever. Let's just go and just talk.
Right.
And I think that quality time is such a big part of that. Is just you got to be together. And look, this is completely random because this just happened, but we were cleaning out stuff, and we were helping our kid move some furniture and stuff around. And I walked back, and you were sitting on the bed, and you had a stack of papers in your hand. I was like, what is that? And you had emails from me that you had printed out, right? Mm-hmm. They were emails, right?
Yeah.
And they were about 2 weeks worth. It was about 15 emails. And it was an email every day that I sent to you after you had confessed to being unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read through all of them, but the best I could tell, it was like 4 months later. So I think I said something about that. But one of the things that caught my attention was I kind of had it in sections, and I was saying this is something that I learned in my time with God today, and then I ended it with, we need to write a book. I mean, this could be the book. I mean, so anyway, but at the last thing was, here's a word of encouragement to you, and it was like something that, and so look, people out there, like that was effort.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not just patting myself on the back. I'm telling you people, like, this is the kind of stuff that saves marriages.
Right.
But as I was saying to you, here's a word of encouragement. Like I can tell you that was next to impossible for me to do.
Not
Why would I be telling you something good after what you had done to me only 4 months before? But in that, I was pointing out things that you were doing. Like I read, one of them was, you have decided that this family, our family, is the most important thing to you. I came home from work today. It said the clothes were folded. There was the refrigerator was stocked that you had cooked for us. And so it just reminded me how like we were both just diving in and doing what we could. But the one, and I didn't read them all, but one thing that really caught my attention, I said, I sure didn't enjoy spending those 2 hours with you last night before we went to bed. And I said, I'll be honest with you, before you confessed to me, like I didn't even know anything was going on, but most nights I would let you stay in the bedroom asleep with the boys when you laid down with them when they were little. And I said, because honestly, I didn't care to be with you.
Right.
Like I didn't care because of the person that you were becoming. And that's on me too. But I was like, I would rather watch TV or, look at my phone or whatever. And I said, but now, like those 2 hours and the time that we're spending together before we go to bed at night are the highlights of my day.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, because we were trying.
Right.
Like we were trying in the midst of the worst of the worst.
Right.
It was like, let's hang out together.
Right.
And you could just see just from the words that I was putting in those emails, what a difference it was making because both of us were doing all that we could. And so that quality time, like I'm saying, that's one thing I would say is just start spending time together. Like stop avoiding each other.
Right.
I mean, that's what roommates do. You know, you just come and go
Pass
and come
in the
and go.
hallway.
Yeah. And you can't do that if you want to have a thriving and growing marriage.
Right. Right.
So,
yep. One of the other things, do I have time to talk about love languages for just a second?
Better be fast.
I'm not pushing love languages on anybody. I have some mostly positive thoughts about that, but a few but I know that it's important to know how your spouse wants to be loved. And I think that's real important. Because I have seen it work and I've seen it not work. And I feel like a lot of times we say, I'm loving my spouse as best I can. I'm doing this, I clean the house, blah, 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 all the things that I'm doing right to show them love, but that may not be how they feel loved. Like, and I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but like if coming home to a home-cooked meal was really, really important to you. I know I've said this before. And I spent all my extra time in the afternoon getting the house clean for you, picking up after the kids, all of that. I'm kind of thinking back a little bit. And you come in and you could care less whether the house was clean or not. You just want a warm meal. Then I haven't met your need in the way that you want it to be met. And so, and that's just a silly example, but it's important to be like, the love languages are physical touch, acts of service. We mentioned these just a couple of weeks ago or last week.
Words of affirmation.
Did I say quality time?
Gifts. And quality time. I kind of lost.
Okay. Anyway,
kind of lost what you
sorry.
said.
But you have to know how your spouse likes to be loved on, because I know that yours is words of affirmation. Well, if I spent all day doing acts of service for you, because that's an important one to me, and said nothing encouraging, or that I'm thankful for you, or that I love you, or that I think you're great at this and that, then I'm not doing what you need to be loved. So in that action plan, I think it's very important that you communicate with your spouse.
Yeah, ask them. Find out what it is.
How do you, what do I do that makes you feel the most loved?
Yeah.
What is it that I do? And you don't even have to take a test, to find out what yours is if you don't want to.
Right.
Just knowing, I could say, and that may change. Like, don't say, well, we've been married 15 years. I know that she loves gifts. Well, it may have changed. Because there was a time where gifts was important to me.
Right.
I loved when you would come home with this and that. But now that's not as important to me anymore. And so it's important that you know right now how your spouse feels most loved, and make every effort to do that.
That's great. And as we wrap up, one of the things I want to say is that in the story that we were talking about from our sermon, Jesus met this man in his place. And that's the thing, Jesus comes and meets us in our messy places. And I actually put that on social media this morning after I heard him in the sermon say that Jesus enters our messy places to find us. And I believe he does that for our marriages.
Yeah.
And how thankful are we that he entered our marriage in the messiest of messes, and he wants to give life to dead marriages.
That's right.
And so, you may feel like my marriage is stuck, it's going nowhere, it's dead. Well, Jesus wants to breathe life into that.
Yeah.
And so let him. And we're here to tell you that the marriages that are thriving, our marriage, because of the work that we've put in and the attention, because we've been using that a lot. It's not hard work. It requires attention. And the attention that we put in after we had to do the hard work to dig out of the mess we were in, the attention that we've given since then has just made us into a marriage that, man, it's awesome. It's just, we're in a great season. So we want that for you guys too. And look, we're not perfect.
No.
We still get under each other's skin and have arguments and stuff, just like normal people.
Absolutely.
So there's no perfect, but we just have a story, and I think it's a story that people can look at and say, yes, there's hope. And we can put in that effort too.
Absolutely.
So, all right, went a little bit over.
Sorry,
not too much. Probably your story at the end, but that's fine. All right, we will. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us. Reach out to us if we can help you with anything during the week. Bye bye.